"Justin," he heard a woman's voice coming from the front door of his house. "I'm here," she added, followed by the sound of a door closing. Justin grinned and shook his head, walking barefoot from his home office to the hallway. He should have known that Mandy would come into the house herself. When he entered the spacious living room, he saw Mandy standing with her back to him, hanging her coat on the rack next to the door. His gaze instinctively slid to her buttocks, which were hugged by light gray jeans that fit like a glove. She had an amazing ass, he thought. Returning his gaze to eye level, Justin noticed that the petite woman's long, dirty blonde hair was pulled back into a ponytail, revealing her slender, lightly tanned neck. Wearing a simple black t-shirt and short black boots, Mandy looked like the average elementary school teacher she was, and looked nothing like the actresses and models Justin usually hung out with. "I wasn't expecting you," he told her. "I thought I'd only see you tomorrow for your birthday." "Oh, hi, Justin," she turned to him, giving him a warm, genuine smile, one he wasn't used to seeing in shallow Hollywood. "I thought I'd stop by today to pick up my birthday present," she said, her smile turning into a sly grin. "Oh, really?" he teased, grinning back. "And why did you decide that I prepared something for you?" She walked towards him with a mischievous look in her brown eyes and her hips swaying in time with her tail. "I'm turning 30, honey," she purred, placing her hands on his chest, standing on her tiptoes and kissing his cheek softly. For a moment, he hoped that a kiss would touch his lips. "I know you have a gift for me," she continued, "a big one that I can't wait to unwrap." Justin chuckled and then leaned in and kissed his cheek. "So you've come to pick him up?" "Uh-huh," she replied, taking her phone out of her pocket. "I couldn't wait as soon as I read this article from Gloria Gonzalez on HollywoodBuzz.com, and I quote, 'The biggest surprise of the film, however, was the return of soap opera star and Hollywood bad boy Justin Winters to the big screen as the courageous hunter who is lover of star Anna Robinson in the film. His blue eyes, sculpted jaw, strong pecs, and abs are a delight, but in this writer's opinion, the sexiest element of his appearance is his butt. This ass gets a lot of screen time in the film's hottest scenes, and deservedly so. God, where has this man been all my life, and does anyone have his Snapchat?' To paraphrase a Game of Thrones quote, 'Ladies, Winters has arrived.' When I read this, I was so horny that I couldn't help but come," she practically moaned, rolling her eyes. "Don't believe everything you read on the internet," Justin laughed. "I saw these pectoral muscles, and this press, and this ass," she listed, unbuttoning his white shirt. "She knows what she's talking about, and I agree with Gloria's assessment. You have the sexiest ass in Hollywood." She took off his shirt, then ran her hands up his arms, her gaze lingering on his muscular biceps and tattooed forearms. Justin watched as her hands and eyes moved over his chest, then slowly down to his abs and stopped at the zipper of his black jeans. "Couldn't wait to unwrap the gift?" he teased her in a low voice. "No way," she replied, concentrating on unbuttoning his pants. As soon as she unbuttoned them and pulled down the zipper, her hand dove inside. Winters is here," she whispered, stroking him. Justin threw his head back and closed his eyes, enjoying the feeling of her gentle fingers slowly massaging him. "I can't wait to get fucked by the man with the sexiest ass in Hollywood," she said, sending shivers down his spine. He loved it when Mandy talked dirty. Feeling his pants being pulled down, Justin opened his eyes and looked at Mandy, who knelt down, continuing to caress him. "If only Gloria knew that your best feature is actually this incredible body part," she purred as his pants finally slid to the floor. "God, he's so handsome, Justin." Kneeling in front of him, Mandy began to pleasure himself. He liked to look at her. The usually modest and reserved woman turned into an aggressive, dirty-talking savage during their sexual encounters. He knew what would happen next. No careful touches, no tender kisses, just pure, unbridled desire. Justin loved it. Mandy loved to please, he knew that. Although her main goal now was to prepare him for the main action, over the past year she had made it clear more than once that she enjoyed Justin's satisfaction. "Enough," he groaned. Come upstairs so I can have good sex with you, he growled, knowing it would make her shiver. He knew it turned her on. Mandy walked slowly towards the stairs, looking over her shoulder as he pulled his pants down around his ankles. Hurry up, girl, or I'll spank that sexy ass, he shouted threateningly, jokingly. Do you promise? She teased back, taking off her shirt on the way upstairs. She tossed the t-shirt on the steps, then unclasped her black bra and left it 3 steps up. You didn't move fast enough, Justin shouted, jumping up the stairs, now completely naked. Mandy screamed happily and ran upstairs before Justin caught her in his bedroom and wrapped his strong arms around her. Now it's my turn to go down, he declared, nipping at her earlobe while his hands squeezed and kneaded her full breasts. I'm so horny, honey, I don't think you need to do this, she replied. I think I need to do a thorough check to be sure, he whispered in her ear as his hands moved to unbutton her pants. Within seconds, Justin had completely undressed her, and she was lying on her back on the bed with her legs spread wide open. You got waxed, he noted, raising an eyebrow. This is something new. Yes, Alex asked me to try it, she said. I thought I would surprise him tomorrow night. You are the first to see it. How do you like it? I like it, he replied, momentarily taken aback by her mention of Alex, her husband, and Justin's best friend since childhood. He pushed those thoughts away and lowered himself between Mandy's legs. Damn, girl, you weren't kidding, he began. You're really horny. Justin started to pleasure her. Oh fuck, that feels so good, honey, she moaned. I told you I got horny after that article. Justin loved Mandy's satisfaction because she was so responsive and proactive. Her hands were buried in his hair, her hips moved in rhythm, her legs slid along his back, and she encouraged him with dirty words. As Mandy began to hold her breath and her legs began to squeeze his head, she exhaled and pushed him away, breathing heavily, enough. Justin grinned as he stood up from the bed. He moved closer to her, towering over her. Oh, Mandy breathed. You want to take me like this, right? Okay then. She pulled Justin closer, their bodies touching, and their every breath was heard in the silence of the room. He felt her warmth and tenderness as they moved in the same rhythm. Their intimacy was complete. They were drowned in sensations that could not be expressed in words. Justin enjoyed the way she wrapped her legs around him, and Mandy's hands gently touched his back, as if trying to hold this moment forever. Her breathing quickened, and a small moan escaped her lips as they continued to move together. He felt her hands gently sliding over his shoulders, creating a feeling of comfort and warmth. This closeness was special to Justin, and although he tried not to get attached, something in these moments inexorably pulled him to her. He paused for a moment, remembering the rules he and Mandy and her husband, Alex, had established. There were lines between them that he couldn't cross, and one of the most important rules was that he couldn't kiss her. Justin knew it was just a physical connection, but with each moment like this, it became more and more difficult for him to refrain from wanting more. Trying to distract himself from his thoughts, he asked her to change position, and she readily responded. Her trust and desire to give him control was evident in her every move. Justin watched her reaction carefully, wanting to give her maximum pleasure, but trying not to cross the fine line between physical and emotional. Mandy responded to his actions with enthusiasm, and he could see her enjoying every moment. Their movements became more synchronized, and they both sank into a feeling of closeness and unity that grew with each passing second. At such moments, everything around disappeared, and only the two of them remained. Justin felt the pleasure approaching, and, breathing heavily, he looked at her, trying to make sure they were both ready to complete this moment. Mandy nodded weakly, and for the last time they merged in one impulse. Silence filled the room as they both sank down next to each other, exhausted, feeling the peace and satisfaction of the moment. Fuck, Justin moaned softly, falling onto the bed next to Mandy. She was still face down in the pillow and just let her knees slide down when Justin was no longer behind her. It was incredible. Best birthday present ever, Mandy breathed, rolling over onto her back. God, Justin, I don't know how you haven't been ringed by some lucky woman yet, she said, breathing heavily, looking at the ceiling. I guess I haven't found the one yet, he said thoughtfully, glancing at her and admiring her cute little nose, big brown eyes, and soft lips. Well, then it's time to change that, she commented. Do you want to break up with me? He grinned. She turned to him and gave him a charming smile. Honey, I'm going to have sex with you as long as I can. But you are 30 years old, and I will never stand in the way if you meet someone with whom you are serious. And Alex and I would like you to find your soulmate. What if I already have everything I need? He asked with a grin. I get to have the most beautiful, smartest woman I know and hang out with her and my best friend. What more could I want? She frowned and shook her head. For an actor, you are a terrible liar. Don't worry, I'll find someone for you. Is it true? He teased her, feeling the pull of her lips again. True, she replied, looking him straight in the eyes. He paused and then asked, Do you want to stay the night? She smiled softly at him. You know I can't. He really knew she couldn't stay. After all, that was the second rule, no overnight stays. Mandy could come and fuck him, but she always left afterwards. Always. Justin knew the rules were made to protect all three of them. For him, these rules were necessary so as not to become too attached to Mandy and not risk betraying Alex. He's had problems with temptation in the past, and as his feelings for Mandy grew, he knew he was heading down a dangerous path. The fact that he even asked her about breaking the rule was a serious signal. He was crossing the line. Okay, beautiful, he said, continuing to look into her eyes. Let's get you ready. Hey, she laughed playfully. I said I couldn't stay the night, but she didn't say she had to leave. I only celebrate my 30th birthday once in my life. Justin laughed. And how much time do you have? It depends. From what? On how many Cialis tablets you have, she grinned. I want the bad boy of Hollywood to have sex with me all night long. You are a little naughty girl. I think I need to put you on my lap and give you a good spanking. One strike for every year of your life. Is this a promise? She breathed out shakily. Justin pressed the button on his key fob to lock his BMW M5, then headed to the front door of Alex and Mandy's Beverly Hills mansion. He was 30 minutes late, so he was forced to park down. The street guests who had arrived earlier had taken over the driveway and all the spaces closer to the house. With a bottle of Bruno Giacosa Barolo Riserva 2001 in hand, knowing it was Mandy's favorite wine, he opened the door and walked inside. No need to knock. Looking at the spacious property, Justin remembered that Alex bought this house 3 years ago, after he sold one of his applications for a tidy sum. Justin didn't remember all the details, only that it was a lot of money, more than he ever made. He wasn't jealous, he was sincerely happy for Alex. This guy deserves success. Mandy's 30th birthday party was in full swing when Justin walked into the crowded house. Most of the guests were having fun inside, hiding from the cool autumn air. He looked around the room, looking for familiar faces. He didn't recognize anyone at first glance, which wasn't surprising considering Alex was an app developer, Mandy a teacher, and they lived in Beverly Hills. And Justin himself was an actor living in the Hollywood Hills, so this company was a stranger to him. Justin headed to the kitchen, assuming that he could find Alex or Mandy there. On the way, he noticed in the depths of the living room 2 pretty girls in their 20s who were looking at him hungrily and whispering. He recognized that look. Fans ready for anything. He remembered them, but continued to the kitchen. Entering the crowded kitchen, Justin immediately noticed those he was looking for, Alex and Mandy. They smiled and waved at him as he approached them. Mandy looked amazing. Her hair was styled in soft curls, and she wore a green cocktail dress with spaghetti straps that brought out the green notes in her brown eyes. The dress was revealing enough to show off her tan shoulders and mid-thigh legs, while the neckline just showed off her gorgeous breasts. Alex looked like your typical hot nerd. Neat haircut, short brown hair, brown eyes, almost no tan and thin-framed glasses. But his tight blue polo and jeans showed off his toned body, which had clearly been through a lot of gym work. Alex didn't seem like a stranger next to his beautiful wife, Justin thought. Justin approached Mandy first. "Happy birthday, beautiful," he said, hugged her, kissed her on the cheek, and handed her a bottle of wine. "This is your gift." Mandy took the wine, looked at the label, and thanked him with a warm smile. "I love this wine," she said, hugging him again to whisper in his ear. "Didn't I already get a gift, Justin?" When he released her from his embrace, he just shrugged and grinned. She smiled slightly in response. Just at that moment, he noticed in his peripheral vision how Alex was heading towards him with his arms outstretched. Alex had been Justin's best friend since they were 5 years old, when they spent their entire first day of kindergarten on the slide and swings. When Justin's mom went through her manic phases, Alex was there to support. When Justin found out his father was cheating on his mother, Alex was his shoulder to lean on. When kids at school started bullying him after learning that his mother had starred topless in so many horror movies, Alex was the one who stood by his side. When his father, a respected director, was hit by a wave of cancellations as part of the Me Too movement, Alex helped him cope with the aftermath. And when Justin began to drown in illegal drugs and alcohol, losing control, it was Alex who got him into rehab and helped him stay afloat. For 25 years, Alex had been his best friend, the brother Justin never had, and his guardian angel. Justin hugged Alex tightly. "Good to see you, brother." "Me too, Justin," Alex responded warmly. They stood back, smiling at each other, placing their hands on each other's shoulders. Justin wanted to say something, but held back. Alex noticed this. "Is something wrong? Can I tell you later?" "Why not now?" Justin took a deep breath and nodded. Alex looked at him carefully, and then nodded his head slightly towards the stairs, silently offering to talk in private. Justin followed his friend upstairs, down the hallway, and they entered the master bedroom. Alex's master bedroom was large enough to accommodate a king-size bed, several closets, nightstands, and a round table with chairs. Justin sat down on a chair opposite his friend at a small table. "So what happened?" Alex asked. Justin exhaled sharply as he considered his answer. He decided it was better to tell the truth. "I can't take it anymore." "What exactly can't you do?" Alex looked puzzled. "This is our agreement," Justin explained. "I can't continue like this anymore." "Too much sex?" Alex laughed. "You live an amazing life, friend. I don't know anyone who has slept with as many hot women as you. By the way, did you sleep with that tennis player?" "Well, yeah," Justin admitted with a sly smile, and then became serious again. "But that's not the point." "Then what?" Now a note of anxiety appeared in Alex's voice, and he leaned forward. Justin took a deep breath and looked into his friend's eyes. Alex's face remained blank for a moment until it dawned on him. "Oh," Alex breathed, his face becoming serious. "How long ago?" "6 months," Justin admitted. "Damn," Alex sighed, looking down at the floor as if he was looking for answers there. Not finding them, he met his friend's gaze again. "Why didn't you say anything?" Justin had an answer, but it immediately disappeared. He found another answer, and that one also disappeared. In the end, he remained silent. But his silence did not go unnoticed by his friend, who knew him too well. "Have you talked to a therapist about this?" Alex asked softly. "Yes." "What did she say?" "She thinks I'm getting attached to Mandy because she's unattainable," Justin replied. "Essentially, I'm punishing myself for past sins by pursuing a woman I can't have. I can't cheat on someone who isn't mine." "Bro, I love you, but you're so fucking confused." Alex laughed before turning serious again. "Do you agree with her? Do you think she's right?" "Who knows?" Justin sighed, throwing up his hands. "Maybe, maybe." "Did she give you any advice?" Alex asked. "Yeah," Justin laughed. "She said I need to stop sleeping with Mandy Man. She advised me to find a normal relationship where I could experience true intimacy, and I confuse sex with intimacy, or something like that." "Mandy won't like this," Alex noted, frowning. "I still can't believe we even went through with this," Justin admitted. shaking his head and staring at the floor. I mean, I was all for a threesome for her birthday last year. I thought it would be a one-time thing for a special occasion. But this agreement, I still don't understand how you two decided that it was okay for me to be your wife's toy. Don't get me wrong, I really appreciate this honor. But I mean, how can you be okay with that? Because you're my best friend, Alex replied as if it was the obvious answer. I trust you completely, and she does too. I know that you will never betray me, and I love and trust Mandy. I know she enjoys being with you, especially considering how often I have to travel for work. And when she tells me what you two are doing, damn, it turns me on. I'm fine with all of this. I'm not jealous. It excites me. I trust you both. Alex curled his fingers at each reason. So why wouldn't I want the two people closest to me in the world to be happy? But Alex, Justin began carefully, my therapist says that makes you a cuckold. Do you really like this? Listen, Justin, Alex replied, I don't really like labels, and I would never do this with anyone but you. Whatever you call it, if it makes everyone happy, including me, then why would I give it up? Yes, listening to her talk about what you do turns me on. It would be untrue to deny this. Okay, but I still think I'll end it. I can't go on if I'm going to fall in love with your wife. When we were young, all the girls were mine. Mandy is the only girl who chose you over me. You are my best friend in the world, and I'm not going to take her away from you. But lately, I feel like the only way to guarantee that is to stop sleeping with her. You know how I am with temptation. It's not always possible to control myself. Alex shook his head silently for a moment, then said, She'll be disappointed. To be honest, I'm disappointed too. By the way, I heard about your session yesterday. She gave me a detailed report while I was pleasuring her in the morning. This turned me on so much that she and I had the best sex we had had in a long time. But I understand if you feel like you can't do it anymore. Will you tell her yourself? I can't. Can you tell her? I'll try, Alex sighed. Okay, let's get back to the party. Going downstairs back to the guests, Justin saw Mandy standing in the living room, surrounded by her friends, carefully watching her and Alex. As soon as she met Justin's gaze, she excused herself from the group and headed to the bottom of the stairs. Where did you two go? She asked suspiciously, hugging her husband around the waist. It was another painful reminder for Justin that Mandy belonged to Alex. I just needed to talk to Justin, Alex replied. Mandy gave him a questioning look and then turned to Justin, giving him a mischievous smile. I have a surprise for you. I'd like to introduce you to two of my colleagues, she said, unhooking herself from Alex and taking Justin's arm. She pulled him lightly, leading him across the room, deftly weaving around a crowd of 30 people. You didn't wait long to start wooing me, I see, he said as they crossed the room. I could have started this plan before our conversation yesterday, she smiled. There are two teachers at my school that all the dads are crazy about. I told them about you, and they were both interested. Seeing the direction in which they were moving, Justin suspected that these were the same two attractive girls he had noticed when he first entered the house. One of them was a cute, thin blonde in a black dress with an open back and high heels, which emphasized her slender legs. Her petite figure and shoulder-length wavy hair gave her a classic Hollywood look, and Justin was sure her name was something like Madison or Jenna. Not bad, he thought. She was definitely beautiful. He'd love to spend the night with her, but he suspected she wasn't suited for a long-term relationship. The second girl was a tall, curvaceous Latina who exuded sexuality, devouring him with her gaze. Getting a better idea of her as he got closer, Justin immediately understood her type. She was a celebrity hunter. With her long, wavy black hair, dark eyes, light brown skin, and luxurious forms, she literally breathed passion. Her blue jeans and white cardigan covered most of her skin, but none of her sexy curves. Justin, Mandy began, let me introduce you to Isabella. She pointed at the Latina, and Jenna. Of course, Justin chuckled to himself. Girls, Mandy continued with a sly smile, let me introduce you to the man with the sexiest butt in Hollywood. All three women smiled knowingly, and also my very good friend, Justin Winters. Hi, ladies, Justin began with charm. He shook hands with both of them, making eye contact and giving them his signature smirk. Jenna melted. I'm wondering who is in charge of recruiting teachers at your school. It must have been the casting director because he hired the most beautiful teachers I've ever seen. Jenna laughed and modestly tucked her hair behind her ear. Isabella's eyes sparkled, as if she were ready to pounce on him right then and there. I'll leave you three alone, Mandy told her friends with a smile as she pulled away from Justin's hand. Good luck, she added quietly. It took less than a minute for Justin to realize who he was dealing with. These two girls didn't come to the party to meet their future soulmate. They came here to sleep with a movie star. And not just any star, but the sexiest butt in Hollywood. Justin knew Mandy had good intentions when she set up this meeting, but she didn't understand what it was like to be a celebrity. Most girls didn't want to date him. Not really. Of course, they loved the fantasy of being with someone famous. However, in most cases, they just wanted to sleep with him so that they could show off to their friends later. He was just an item on their wish list. Justin was not usually in the mood for casual relationships. He had already gone through this in his late teens and early 20s, but now that he had finally put an end to his relationship with Mandy, he felt empty. The little moments of intimacy he had with a woman were now over, and he already missed them. And although intimacy with these girls could only be for one night, he hoped to find at least something that reminded him of real intimacy. At least now kissing was possible. Justin decided to get straight to the point. So, ladies, he began, lowering his voice to make it deeper, shall we chat for an hour, or should we skip this step and come to my place? Unsurprisingly, Isabella spoke first. I'm for it. Which of us do you want to take with you? Her eyes were glued to his face. He liked her confidence and smirked. I can do the splits, Jenna suddenly blurted out, nervously taking a step closer to Justin. His smile widened, and he turned his gaze to the slender blonde. Up close, he noticed that she had beautiful, large blue eyes. I'd like to see that, Justin commented quietly. Me too, Isabella added, looking at her colleague with a hint of interest. It seems like there's only one solution, Justin suggested. Guess I'll have to take you both. Isabella and Jenna exchanged glances. Isabella shrugged and nodded her head in agreement. Jenna looked a little unsure, but eventually sighed and said, okay. Justin barely had time to enter his house, opening the door while Isabella kissed him passionately and Jenna caressed him. He almost got into an accident several times on the way from Alex and Mandy's house in Beverly Hills to his home in Hollywood Hills. Isabella, who was sitting in the front seat, was pleasuring him just 2 minutes after they got into the car, which clearly did not make Jenna happy. While this wasn't the first time Justin had enjoyed himself behind the wheel, Isabella's technique was on another level. When they entered the house, Justin decided to pay attention to Jenna, who was watching but not participating in what was happening in the car. Plus, he was dying to see this girl do the splits. He pulled away from his kiss with Isabella and pulled Jenna towards him. Jenna literally melted in his strong arms and almost melted when he pressed his lips to hers, opened them with his tongue, and began to gently move his tongue over hers. After a passionate kiss with the aggressive Isabella, who almost tried to shove her tongue down his throat, Justin enjoyed a gentle, sensual kiss with the softer and more cautious Jenna. That kiss reminded him of what it was like to kiss a girl you're in a relationship with. Her lips were soft, her tongue patient. He slowed down and enjoyed perhaps the most intimate moment he had experienced in years. However, their tender moment did not last long. A few seconds later, he felt his pants sliding down to his ankles. This woman was simply insatiable, he thought. Justin paused his kiss with Jenna for a moment to pull her dress over her head while enjoying her figure. She was slim, with a toned, trained figure without excess fat. Her strapless bra accentuated her small but attractive breasts, revealing her sculpted abs framed by narrow hips underneath. Meanwhile, Isabella continued to do her thing, but Justin was already ready to move on to the next stage with Jenna and see her abilities in the splits. Okay, Justin announced. Jenna, you mentioned something about doing the splits. Time to show your skills. Okay, Jenna replied. You want me to do it right here? No, Justin grinned. Do it on the couch. Jenna looked around, saw the sofa, and asked in surprise, on the sofa? Why? Because I think it will be at just the right height for you to do the splits and please me at the same time, Justin explained with a sly grin. Damn, that's hot, Isabella commented, pausing in her actions. Is it true? Jenna asked enthusiastically. Okay then. Jenna took off her shoes, walked over to the sofa, stood on it, and smoothly lowered herself into a full split. Justin's cock immediately stiffened painfully as he looked at the sight. He struggled to take off the rest of his clothes. How do you even do that? Isabella asked, hastily getting rid of her clothes. Years of gymnastics and cheerleading as a kid, followed by 5 years of bar classes, Jenna replied, sitting in a perfect split on the couch. This might be the sexiest thing I've seen in years, Justin thundered, glaring at her, making her shiver. Justin's impression that Jenna was girlish was further confirmed when she began to pleasure him. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Isabella standing naked to the side, her hands on her wide hips, eagerly awaiting rejoining the company. The tall Latina's body with brown skin looked as good as he imagined. Do I have something to do? She asked with a raised eyebrow and that same hungry look in her eyes. Okay, upstairs to the bedroom, he commanded. Both girls had one last caress, then followed him up the stairs to the bedroom. Justin sat down on the bed next to Isabella and Jenna, feeling a surge of warmth and calm from their closeness. Isabella was the first, with a slight smile, to reach out and gently hug Jenna's shoulders, whispering, Relax, you deserve this moment. Jenna, feeling the support of her friend, took a deep breath and allowed herself to be completely immersed in what was happening. Her laugh was quiet, almost timid, as she caught Justin's gaze. He reached out and gently touched her cheek, running his thumb over the soft skin, pulling her closer. Everything is fine, he asked softly, his voice filled with concern. Jenna nodded, her eyes sparkling. At that moment, everything seemed right. No rush, no expectations, just them in this quiet space, shared by a common warmth. Justin leaned down and kissed her tenderly, feeling their lips touch each other with a natural fluidity. The kiss was deep, but not rushed, as if they were both trying to remember every detail, every moment. Isabella, watching this, grinned and gently pushed Jenna even closer to Justin, whispering, You shine when you're around him. It's good to see. Jenna blushed slightly, her face glowed, and her breathing became a little faster. Justin noticed this and, smiling, extended his hand to Isabella, pulling her into their embrace. What about you? He asked, looking at her. You deserve to be a part of this too. Isabella tilted her head slightly, as if contemplating her answer, but then gave in to the moment and hugged them both, creating a feeling of warmth, calm, and unity. I don't mind, she whispered quietly, her eyes softly sparkling in the light of the lamp. The main thing is that everyone has a good time. Justin slowly lifted Jenna into his arms and gently laid her back on the bed, his touch almost weightless, but at the same time confident. She looked at him gratefully, her body relaxed, barely touching the soft surface of the sheets. Thank you, Jenna whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but filled with sincerity. Justin smiled, satisfied not only with the moment, but also with the mutual understanding that had arisen between them. They didn't need any extra words, their communication was through touches, glances, and a general feeling of calm that filled the room. It was a wonderful evening, Justin said, looking first at Jenna and then at Isabella. I'm glad we're all here. Me too, Isabella nodded, her voice warm and sincere. Justin walked Jenna and Isabella to the car as their Uber pulled up. Thank you for a wonderful evening, Isabella said, hugging him. I would add the best man spot to your title of sexiest ass in Hollywood, she whispered in his ear before getting into the car. He turned around and looked at Jenna, whose eyes were glued to his. He gave her a warm smile, then said, Hey Jenna, it was nice meeting you. Mutually, she answered enthusiastically. Justin held her gaze, hesitating whether to say what he wanted. He gained courage. I was thinking, maybe we'll meet again sometime. Shall we go out to dinner or something? Oh, Jenna opened her eyes in surprise. That sounds amazing. But, but what? He asked when she didn't finish her sentence. She looked away and, looking at the ground, quietly whispered, I have a boyfriend. Oh, Justin breathed, feeling the walls build up around his heart. What an idiot I am, he thought. He knew this would happen. I knew that these girls only needed to sleep with a famous person. Knew it would never be more than just a check mark on their list. It was him, Justin realized. The bad boy of Hollywood. Sex toy. Apostate. Dependent. Sexy ass. He ignored his instincts about Jenna. Ignored what he understood from the first meeting because one kiss made him confuse sex with real intimacy. My therapist was right, he thought. Your boyfriend is lucky, he said softly. Jenna looked away discreetly. You should probably go. Hey, Justin, she said as he was about to turn and leave. Yes, it was the best sex of my life. I've never experienced anything like it, and it's unlikely that any man can even come close to it, she said, believing that she was paying him a compliment. Thank you, Jenna, he replied and turned to go back into the house. This is who I am, he thought bitterly. Sexy ass and amazing man spot. Without expecting anyone, Justin got up from the couch and walked to the door after hearing a strange knock at 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. Opening the door, he was surprised to see Mandy standing in the doorway, looking worried. Can I come in? She asked. I'm surprised you didn't come in on your own like usual, he chuckled, opening the door wider and inviting her inside. I didn't think it would be appropriate, she replied as he closed the door behind her. Inspecting her outfit beige trousers and a silky red blouse and looking at the time, Justin realized that Mandy had just returned from work. He put two and two together, Alex told her. He told you, right? He asked softly. Yes, she answered, looking at him nervously. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Justin sighed bitterly. What exactly should I have said? What fell in love with you? That I fell in love because I knew I couldn't have you? That I had feelings for you that, if I had not controlled them, could have led to the betrayal of my best friend? Which of these should I have said, Mandy? Justin, she sighed, gently touching his face. He closed his eyes, enjoying her touch, knowing that this was the last time she would touch him so tenderly. You could have told me all this. I hope you understand this. Is it true? He grinned. Of course he could, she assured him softly. We love you. You mean a lot to me and Alex. That's why we let you into our lives the way we did. I don't doubt your motives, Mandy, he replied. I know you wished me well. I just don't think you fully understood how this would affect me. You're right, she admitted. We didn't understand. I think we both thought it would make you happy. After your rehab and being alone for so long, we just wanted you to be happy and to know how much you mean to us. He closed his eyes and leaned his head back, taking a deep breath. Mandy hugged him tightly, squeezing him in her arms. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know. He opened his eyes and returned the hug, squeezing her back. He hugged her tightly, and his emotions were all over the place. His heart sank as he realized that their relationship, as it had been for the past year, was over. He and Mandy had something special, something he will never forget. They will always remain friends as they were before their agreement. But their time as lovers has come to an end. And yet, hugging her at that moment and saying goodbye to her as a lover, he felt closer to her than during all their sexual encounters. He couldn't explain it, but that embrace, without any expectations of who he should be or what he should do, brought him peace. They broke the hug, although his hands were still on her shoulders. She looked at him with her brown eyes and asked, Are you sure about this? Yes, I'm sure, he answered without hesitation. Maybe one last time before we call it a day, she suggested with a sly smile. If I had known it would be the last time, I would have made the most of it. She teased him with a smile and a chuckle. Damn, woman, are you saying that the 5 sessions of sex I gave you for your birthday 4 days ago weren't enough? He laughed. First of all, there were only 4 sessions, she corrected him, portraying a mischievous smile. And secondly, I wouldn't mind another one from the owner of the sexiest butt in Hollywood. Justin knew that Mandy was just joking, trying to make it easier to say goodbye to their romance. He knew her well enough to know that she truly cared about him. She didn't realize that her attempt to make it easier for him wasn't working. On the outside, he smiled and laughed, but on the inside, he felt empty. He's tired of being that person. Tired of being just a sexy ass and a great lover. Tired of being just another check mark on some girl's wish list. He wanted more. He worked hard to deserve more. 5 years of therapy, sobriety, and fidelity. However, he could not get rid of his past or his reputation. I think it's better to part ways cleanly, Mandy, he said. Okay, she agreed. See you for dinner this weekend. Of course, he replied. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Justin looked up and saw that he was on Sunset Boulevard. Checking his phone, he realized that it was almost 8 o'clock in the evening. He had been wandering around Hollywood for almost 3 hours since Mandy left his house, lost in thought. After they said goodbye, he put on a Dodgers cap, sunglasses, and a jacket, and then went for a walk with no particular purpose. It was time to return home. Justin, he heard a man's voice. Justin Winters? Turning to his left, he saw a man he did not recognize. He was about the same height as Justin, with black hair and blue eyes, wearing a fashionable patterned shirt and black trousers. Excuse me, do we know each other? Justin asked, trying to remember where he could see him. No, I think not, he replied. My name is Trent Klein. I am a writer. Justin recognized the name. Trent Klein, who wrote the script for Addicted. Yes, it's me, Trent replied with a smile. That was a phenomenal script, Justin said, smiling back. The Oscar buzz is absolutely deserved. You know, I auditioned for the role of Michael. Unfortunately, I didn't make it past the second selection. I was disappointed I didn't get the part because I loved your script and thought I could bring a lot to this character. Thank you for the praise, Trent replied modestly. I didn't know that you auditioned for this role. It's a shame you didn't receive it. It would be great to work together. Maybe next time, Justin said. Are you working on something new? Yes, I'm writing a story about a guy who missed the love of his life and realized his mistake only after she got married. Sounds intriguing. How will it end? I don't want to give away the ending, Trent laughed. I also have a ready-made script for a Western series, which will soon be released on Netflix. Casting will begin soon. Maybe our paths will cross on this project. I hope so. You'll have to contact your agent. Hey, aren't you busy? I was just about to meet a girl at a new piano bar she found. It's like a jazz club on the weekends, but acts as a piano bar during the week. She says it's a trendy place where celebrities can relax because few people know about it yet. Would you like to take a look? Justin had no other plans for the evening other than to meditate on his life. Why not? I'll go have a look, although I don't want to interfere with your date. Decide for yourself, but you can always join us if you want. Justin followed Trent into a building off Sunset Boulevard. Then they walked up the stairs. As they walked up the stairs, Justin realized why this place had been under the radar of many people. The lack of signage indicating that it was a club made it a great place for those who didn't want to deal with autograph and selfie hunters. Entering the club, Justin heard the melodic playing of a piano playing a jazz composition that he did not recognize, but found pleasant. The music was quiet enough that you could talk without shouting over it. Looking around, he noticed that the club's interior looked new. The setup was simple. A bar on the far wall, red velvet booths along 2 walls, a stage on the third, and tables in the middle. Would you like to join us? Trent suggested. No, enjoy the evening with your girl, Justin replied. Thank you for showing me this place. Hope to see you soon, Trent. Mutual. Justin watched as Trent walked to the corner where the woman stood up to hug him. Justin couldn't see her because Trent was blocking her figure, and the lighting in the club was dim. She seemed tall to him. Justin walked to a booth on the other side of the club, closer to the bar. As he passed the tables, he noticed a young woman sitting alone at a table with a glass of white wine in front of her. A baseball cap and sunglasses lay nearby. Something about her seemed familiar to him. The woman was attractive, with long black hair pulled back into a low ponytail and a perfectly contoured nose and chin. Her fair skin looked flawless, and her tight blue jeans showed off her slender legs. Finally, Justin recognized her. He saw this woman at the audition. They went through chemistry together for the film Addicted, for which Trent wrote the script. She was cast in the role of Julie and performed brilliantly, earning critical acclaim and serious talk of a nomination for Best Supporting Actress. "Allison?" he asked, coming closer. "Allison Shepard?" The woman looked up and met his gaze. Her green eyes looked sad and on the verge of tears. "Justin?" she asked quietly, her face full of worry. "Justin Winters?" "Yes," he answered, giving her a reassuring smile. "Are you all right?" Her shoulders sagged and she began to cry. Justin froze, not expecting such a reaction. Not knowing what to do, he did the first thing that came to mind. "Hey, everything will be fine," he whispered, hugging her and stroking her back. He didn't know what he was talking about, he didn't even know what was happening to her, but the words felt right. She sobbed quietly in his arms, gradually relaxing. Justin whispered quietly in her ear, trying to calm her down. "I don't know what's bothering you, Allison, but I've been to rock bottom and I know how much it hurts. I know it's hard, but I also know that it gets easier over time. Believe me, whatever it is, it will pass. I hope you're right," she breathed through her tears, her head pressed against his chest. When she calmed down, he suggested, "Do you want to talk about it? I've been in therapy for many years, so I know how to be a good listener and can probably give advice if you need it." "Okay," she whispered, still leaning on his chest as he continued to hug her. "Why don't we find a cabin with a little more privacy?" "Yes, that's probably a good idea. Would you like to take your wine?" "No," she answered. "I didn't even touch it. Not sure why I ordered it." "Want?" "No, 5 years of sobriety," he replied. "I'll get us some water. Let's take that booth in the corner." Justin took 2 bottles of water from the bartender, then headed to the booth where Allison was trying to hide the signs of her recent tears. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome, Allison," he replied in a warm tone. "How can I help? What's on your mind?" "Today my divorce is officially finalized," she began, looking at her bottle of water. "I met my husband Brian when we were 13. We danced together, took ballroom dancing classes. We got married at 18 and moved here from Utah when we were 19. He was a part of my life for almost half the time, and now it's all over. It's all over." "I'm so sorry, Allison," he said softly, giving her space to continue. "I haven't seen or spoken to him for over a year. Divorce is just a piece of paper that officially confirms that we will no longer be a part of each other's lives. But this piece of paper also reminds me of the mistake I made." Justin was silent, watching as she gathered her courage to continue. "I cheated on him," she said quietly, clutching her water bottle. She was silent for a moment and then continued, "I confessed right away. I couldn't live with this feeling of guilt. But actions have consequences, right? Divorce is a natural consequence when you cheat on your husband, no matter how many times you apologize." Justin continued to sit silently, giving her time to express everything that was in her soul. "Am I a terrible person?" she asked. "It seems I'm a terrible person." Justin felt that she was waiting for an answer from him and needed him. "Just because you cheated doesn't make you a terrible person, Allison. You made a mistake, a big mistake that hurt another person. You may never be able to make things right with your ex-husband, but you have the right to continue living." He paused to catch her eye and make sure she was listening. "Your mistake shouldn't define you if you don't want it to. Admit what you did, learn from it, so you don't make the same mistake. Grow from this experience to become stronger. But you have a choice, Allison. You can carry the stigma of shame or create a better version of yourself, one that you can be proud of." "Do you really think so?" she asked hopefully, finally meeting his eyes. She looked so vulnerable, he thought. "Absolutely," he replied. Then, with a slight laugh, he added, I guess I'll have to think like that, because I'm also a fraud. True, she is not married, but I cheated on every girl I had until I stopped. So yes, I believe that you can be a cheater and still be a good person. People can change if they are willing to work at it. However, your ex-husband will most likely never be able to look at it from that point of view. Many people won't be able to. For some, infidelity is something that cannot be forgiven. This is the only thing that is not a crime, but people will treat you as if you have committed it. You have to accept the fact that some will label you and call you horrible names for the rest of your life. He paused, making sure he was holding her gaze, then continued, Don't give a damn about them. Look for those who are able to forgive, those who are ready to see the whole of you, and not just your mistake. You know, you didn't cheat on me. I don't hate you, and I won't call you a terrible person. I won't throw stones while living in a glass house. Thank you, she whispered, looking at him gratefully, placing her hand on his. Justin patted her hand, then moved it away to take off his jacket. Do you know what this is? He asked, pointing to the red, orange and gold Japanese-style tattoo that covered most of his left arm. No, she answered. This is a phoenix. When a phoenix dies, it is reborn from its ashes. New, renewed, with new life. He paused to let his words sink in. When he saw understanding flash in her eyes, he continued. Be a phoenix, Allison. Part of your old life is dead. Rise from the ashes and live again. Become a phoenix. He saw her eyes begin to fill with tears again, but they were held back by the radiant smile that spread across her face. She was beautiful, he thought. Even for Hollywood, she could be one of the most beautiful women he had ever met. Justin, she said timidly, I don't want to talk about myself anymore. Can we talk about you? Don't be offended if you decline, but I'd really like to get to know you better. To understand how you became so wise, she finished with a soft smile. Justin had to tell his story many times in the 12-step meetings he attended as part of his recovery journey. However, those meetings were confidential. Allison was an actress, she knew people he knew, and this was only their second meeting. Justin was unsure whether he should share his personal story with a person he barely knows and whether he could trust it. Looking into her mesmerizing green eyes, seeing the vulnerability in them, just like in her, his instincts told him that he could trust her. After all, she trusted him, sharing what was on her heart. He decided to take a risk. Okay, he agreed. What do you want to know? Tell me about your family. About my family? He grinned. Well, my mom was an actress, mostly in B-movie slashers in the late 80s and early 90s. Films with zero plot, created to show nudity. She was also bipolar. I hardly saw her, and when I did, she wasn't particularly motherly. When she was depressed, she drank and took pills in her room. And when she had mania, she treated me like her sycophant and not her son. Darling this and darling that. The last time I spoke to her was about 7 months ago when she called me from Malta. He took a sip of water and continued. My father was 15 years older than my mother and a successful director when they met. They only got married because my mother became pregnant with me. However, marriage seemed to mean little to him. He had more mistresses than I could count, usually actresses from the shows he directed, but his appetites weren't limited to just his co-stars. When the Me Too campaign began, one of the actresses accused my father, and that ended his career in Hollywood. We rarely talked to him. We were never close. Work and women always came first for him. Wait, your father is Thomas Winters? She was surprised. I just now connected the names. I didn't know. Yes, this is my father. Who is your mother? Vivienne Lafleur. Wow, it turns out you are a Hollywood aristocrat, she said quietly. More like a Hollywood trash heap, he chuckled. This is my family. Impressive, right? It must have been very hard growing up in that environment, Justin, Allison said, looking at him carefully. He liked the way she listened to him, he thought. There was something elegant in her movements and mannerisms. It was easy for her to open up. That's what my therapist says, he chuckled. My mother left me with intimacy problems, And my father's main contribution was to show me that infidelity and work are more important than family. But what can I complain about, right? I look good, I'm famous, and I live comfortably. I have no problem. I should just shut my mouth and entertain people. I understand what you mean, she said quietly. We live in plain sight. What the outside world sees is an image, and this image almost never reflects what our life really is. Our job is to pretend to be something we are not. Most people cannot distinguish between a game and reality, even those whom we try to bring closer to us. He nodded. She understood him. What else do you want to know about me? She looked closely at his hands, running her fingers over his forearms one by one. It was a gentle touch, not seductive, just a light touch, and her green eyes studied every detail of his tattoos. Tell me about them, she asked. Oh, those tattoos, Justin said, continuing to watch as she looked at his hands with interest. I was in a rehabilitation center in Kyoto. It was an unusual center, far from the prying eyes of Los Angeles. My counselor, who changed my life and taught me how to stay sober, had his hands full. These tattoos are my tribute to him, for what he did for me. How did you get into rehabilitation? She asked, returning her gaze to him. Her green eyes were so deep and focused, he noticed. I started using illegal substances for fun, and 3 years later, I became addicted. At 23, I found myself out of the industry when I was high, acting like a jerk on set, and then sleeping with a married co-star whose husband had influence in the industry. TMZ quickly caught wind of this, and it became a sensation. I've been dubbed the bad boy of Hollywood. And then, on my 24th birthday, I went to Vegas with a senator's daughter and a bag full of substances. It didn't end well. Luckily, my best friend got me out of there before the Las Vegas police arrested me. He took me to a house in the wilderness where he stayed with me for 2 weeks while I went through withdrawal. After the drugs left my system, I went to rehab for 6 months. Is there someone special in your life? She asked with a nervous smile that he found charming. No, it's hard to believe. Why? He asked. Because you have a good heart, she answered. This was not the answer he expected. However, this entire evening did not go as he expected. I don't know about that, he said. I've caused a lot of pain to people over the years. But I still feel it, she insisted, her eyes shining as if light was breaking through the clouds. I think you're trying to hide it, but I feel it. Thank you, he said quietly, and he was truly grateful to her. Tell me something no one else knows about you, she suggested, her smile now full. I don't like being a sex symbol, he admitted. Actually, I hate it. Like you said, people only see what's on the outside and make assumptions about me that aren't true. They see a bad guy. They see the body. They see the image. What would you like them to see? She asked, moving closer to him in the booth. Nothing. I don't want strangers to see something in me, but I would like to find those who will see the real me. He felt comfortable answering her questions. He felt inner peace. What began as an attempt to reassure Allison suddenly turned into her offering him emotional support herself. He suddenly realized that he felt closer to her than he had felt to anyone in a long time. Have you managed to find people who see the real you? Some, he admitted, but there are very few of them, and even they still see me as the bad boy of Hollywood. Was there a time when you enjoyed being the bad boy of Hollywood? She asked with a hint of a smile, suggesting that she enjoyed playing the role of investigator. To be honest, I liked it at first, before I even got the nickname, he admitted. I liked the attention. I've been popular with girls since I hit puberty. After I got my first role, thanks to my parents, women began to surround me from all sides. It turned my head, and then I started hanging out. I loved the attention, loved how people admired me and were jealous of my confidence. But after rehabilitation, I grew up. My priorities have changed. I didn't want to date every girl on the planet. Unfortunately, the reputation was already there, and it was impossible to get rid of it. Some of this is my own fault, I admit. However, I don't want this life anymore. I haven't wanted to for a long time. Now I want something else. What do you want? That's too general, he chuckled. I want a lot. Say the first thing that comes to your mind without thinking, she suggested. This way, your answer will reflect where your heart and mind are at the moment and what is most important to you right now. I want intimacy, he answered without thinking. It had been on his mind ever since he dated Mandy and Jenna. Are you missing it now? She asked curiously. No. What does real intimacy look like for you, Justin? I'm starting to think it's a lot like what's going on right now, he admitted. She sighed slightly and then closed her mouth and met his gaze. Do you like talking to me? She asked softly. Very, he replied. Why? Because I feel like I can trust you. I feel like I can tell you everything. Why? She asked, confused. You have a good heart, he replied with a smile. She giggled softly, her eyes sparkling like the blinking green lights on a Christmas tree. I feel like I can trust you too, she said, watching him carefully. It's because we're both broken. I suppose so, she agreed. Have you ever heard of kintsugi? He asked. No, what is this? This is the Japanese art of restoring broken pottery using gold. The result is a vessel that is more beautiful than the original. This art celebrates the history of the subject, both destruction and restoration. This is symbolic of life. Mistakes and accidents are a natural part of life. An artist can create something new and more beautiful from broken parts, and it's the scars that help create this beauty. Thank you for telling me about it, she said, her eyes locked on his, radiating warmth. Did you find out about this when you lived in Japan? Yes, from the man who showed me the way out of darkness. I hope I can find this way, she said thoughtfully. Can we talk like this again? He asked. I'm not trying to get rid of you, but I like it, and I don't want this to be the last time we meet. I would like that, she replied softly, her eyes radiating warmth. Not the lust or hunger he was used to. In Allison, he saw compassion and kindness and a desire to receive it in return. When he put his hand on hers across the table, she didn't move away. She looked at his hand on hers, turned her hand over, and squeezed his hand. When she looked up at him, he was lost in her eyes, and he never wanted to be found. Justin. Yes? She hesitated and seemed nervous. Would you like to come home to me? She asked. I would like to continue talking with you, but I would prefer to be in a more private place. My apartment is in Silver Lake. I'll call an Uber. He was not ready to part with the charming Allison Shepard. When the Uber driver dropped them off in front of Allison's luxury apartment complex in Silver Lake, Justin followed her into the elevator to the top floor and then down the hallway to her door. He walked into her apartment, which was spacious and modern, with hardwood floors, high ceilings, and brown leather furniture. The entrance area led into a large room that combined the living room, kitchen, and dining room. The only bedroom seemed to be at the back, along a corner balcony that was also accessible from the main room. She had good taste, he thought as he looked around and admired the paintings on her walls and the green accents that were placed around the room. I like your apartment, he remarked, continuing to look around. Thank you, she replied. Can I borrow your jacket? Of course, he replied, taking it off and handing it to her. Sit wherever you want, she suggested, hanging his coat in the closet. Can I get you something to drink? No, thank you, he replied, sitting down in one of the leather chairs next to the sofa. He watched as Allison tossed her sneakers into a basket near the front door and then walked over to the leather couch, where she sat down with her legs tucked under her. Something about her natural movements at home made him feel satisfied. So, we were talking about you, she began. Justin laughed. I guess it's time to switch seats and put you in the hot seat. Sensing her confusion, he added, I will only ask what is safe for you. I promise. Okay, she agreed with a shy smile. Tell me about your childhood. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his leg over his knee. I am the youngest daughter of Reed and Tabitha Wilkerson, she began enthusiastically. I have two older sisters who are 2 and 4 years older than me, so we were close growing up. I was a very active child, playing every sport possible and also loved musical theater and drama. She spoke with such energy and passion, reminiscing about her childhood, that Justin couldn't help but smile. I took up dancing when I was 10, and by the age of 13, I became a very successful competitive ballroom dancer, she said with dramatic flourish and a confident smile that made Justin break out into a wide smile. I grew up in Salt Lake City, and most of my friends were Mormons. No one in my family was in the church, but since all my friends were Mormons, I participated in many of the same activities, and that's why I started doing dance and musical theater. That's why I don't really like to drink. Yes, that's probably all. She smiled brightly at him, and he found it charming. She finally began to relax. Have you always wanted to become an actress? Yes, she answered enthusiastically. Ever since I was old enough to sing and dance, I wanted to be an actress. What do you like most about acting? About, I like to immerse myself in a character, she said animatedly. Getting into his mind, understanding what makes him tick, and then becoming that person, become someone else. Are you hoping to get nominated for an Oscar for your role in Addicted? No, she lied with a sly smile. He laughed. What are you working on now? I just finished filming the film, so I'm not doing anything right now. However, I have already been cast in a Western that will be shown on Netflix. It was written by Trent Klein, the same guy who wrote Addicted. It can't be, he said, surprised by the coincidence. I literally ran into Trent today. He was the reason I went to that piano bar where we met. He also told me about this series. Now that I know you're there, I'll definitely tell my agent to make some inquiries. I would love to work with you, she exclaimed, clapping her hands, the excitement of working with him evident on her face. What did you think about how we read at the audition? He saw her face turn red as she bit the inside of her lip. She was speechless. What? He asked with a laugh. Tell. I thought you were very attractive and our chemistry was incredible. I was disappointed that you didn't get the part, she admitted, her sincerity evident in the sparkle in her eyes. Did you find me attractive? He rumbled in a low voice. Yeah, she replied sarcastically. You're the damn bad boy of Hollywood. You were so sexy, so courageous, so dangerous, and your eyes, oh my God. Every time you looked at me, I melted, she said with a laugh. So you knew about my reputation when you came to the audition, he asked, interested in her first impression of him. Well, I heard something. About women, about drugs, about parties. I think you were dating a lingerie model back then. Or was it the actress? Both, he admitted with a laugh. See, she accused him with a playful smile. You are the bad boy of Hollywood. How many women have you ever met? Too many to count, he replied, then added, and I see what you did. She put me in the hot seat again. I've got you figured out, Miss Wilkerson. You're much more interesting than me, she laughed playfully. So, who's the most famous person you've slept with? That's a pretty personal question, he noted with a smirk, raising an eyebrow. Sorry, Anna Robinson, he uttered, not looking away, still grinning. What? She gasped, her mouth opening in a way that he found cute. She's an Oscar winner and one of the most famous people on the planet. Not to mention she's your co-star in the last movie. Did this all happen then? She asked, eagerly awaiting his answer. Watching her move closer, her legs still tucked under him, he felt calm. He didn't feel bad about sharing details of his life as long as she kept smiling. He liked her smile. Have you seen the movie? He asked with a smug smile. Yes. Then did you see the sex scene? That was the best scene in the movie, she laughed, showing off that dazzling smile again. She wasn't simulated. What? She screamed. Are you kidding? No, he said, his smile growing even wider. The director wanted naturalness, and we were both free then. The studio is going to leak the story in a few days in hopes that people will re-watch the film to see if it was real or not. Just please don't tell anyone. We all signed a non-disclosure agreement. Oh my God, she said quietly, her mouth opening again in a surprised smile. What was it like? It's awkward. The set was closed, but it was still strange to have sex in front of the director and cameraman. And then he wasn't satisfied with the first take, and we had to shoot again. "Did you rehearse before filming?" she asked huntingly, a mischievous sparkle sparkling in her eyes. "We're actors, Allison," he said in a dramatic tone. "Of course we rehearsed beforehand." He laughed as her jaw dropped. "You're crazy," she laughed. "If I asked you when was the last time you had a threesome, would you answer?" 3 days ago." "Come on," she howled. "See what I mean?" "But you understand that this is not what I want, right?" he asked softly. "Yes, I remember what you said," she replied, meeting his gaze. "You want intimacy. When was the last time you felt real closeness with someone, Justin?" "I'm not sure I've ever experienced this," he admitted, watching her. "It seems like I was looking for the wrong women all the time. Even those whom I considered my friends did not seek intimacy." "Is it true?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "What were they looking for?" "Alpha. The one who will take control over them. Bad guy. Someone they could annoy mom or dad with." "Well, I think an alpha bad guy can be very attractive," she said, biting the inside of her cheek. "But even an alpha bad guy deserves intimacy, love." Her words and the look in her eyes made his heart beat faster. He felt that she was sending him a signal. Should he have answered it or left it as is? He decided to take a risk. "What about you?" he asked softly. "Is there intimacy in your life lately?" "I haven't felt intimacy in 18 months, she admitted quietly. "Not since I broke up with my ex." Justin felt that she was telling the truth, but there was something else in her tone that he could not understand. He didn't press her to find out more. She'll tell you when she's ready. But it was clear that he needed to tread carefully with her. "Do you miss this? By proximity?" he asked, carefully studying her reaction, desperate to know the answer. "Very," she replied. "What do you miss?" he asked casually. "What things or moments do you hold close and miss?" "I miss simple things, little things. For example, by how easy it is to hold hands," she answered, looking into his eyes. Justin felt something electric in the air. There was something between them that pulled him towards her. He could have ignored it, or he could allow himself to go where this feeling leads him. He chose the second path. He got up from his chair and sat next to her on the sofa, looking into her eyes. Then he looked at her hand. He reached out and took her hand in his, holding on to it. "Like this?" he asked softly. Her eyes widened, then dropped down, looking at their joined hands. Her chest rose slightly, then her gaze met his again. "Yes," she whispered, swallowing the lump in her throat. "What else?" "I miss hugs, strong arms holding me." Her voice was husky, barely above a whisper, her eyes never leaving his. He moved closer on the couch and wrapped one arm around her. Placing his hand on her shoulder, he pulled her towards him. She didn't resist. Instead, she leaned against him, resting her head on his chest. "What else do you miss?" "I miss kissing," she whispered, her head still resting on his chest, her eyes downcast. He let go of her hand and, now with his free hand, took her chin, gently lifting her face towards him. Their eyes met, and he saw in her eyes both nervousness and excitement mixed together. He leaned down and lightly touched her lips with his, and then pressed them harder. When he felt her lips respond by kissing him back, every sense he had was heightened. He pulled away, and their eyes met again. He saw passion and vulnerability in her gaze. It made his heart race. "What else?" he whispered. She swallowed again, her eyes searching his gaze for confirmation that she could say what she wanted, that he already knew what she wanted to say. She found the answer. "I miss making love." Her words confirmed what Justin already suspected. Allison wasn't looking for hot sex and mind-blowing pleasure to numb the pain. She wanted to feel loved, feel the physical manifestation of the emotional connection they felt all night. She wanted what he wanted to. He watched as her chest heaved, her eyes filled with nervous anticipation, riveted on his gaze. He ran his hand down her chin to her cheek, caressing her face and cupping it with his palm. Her skin was warm and incredibly soft, he thought. She closed her eyes and leaned into his hand, then opened them again after a contented sigh. When her eyes opened and found his gaze again, he felt as if he was looking into a thick, lush forest. The forest is endless, from which he will never be able to get out. But he didn't want to run away. He wanted to get lost in this forest. He leaned down and pressed his lips gently to hers again. Calm washed over him as her soft lips greeted him more willingly this time. He felt the taste and touch of her lips, kissing her patiently, giving her space to come to him. When he felt her hand on his thigh and felt her kiss become more passionate, he opened his mouth and ran his tongue over her lips. She let him in, parting her lips and meeting his tongue with hers. Justin has slept with more than 100 women over the past 10 years. Neither of them kissed him the way Allison did. He wanted to be kissed like this for the rest of his life. He released the arm that was wrapped around her shoulder and cupped her face with both hands. He held her gently, not wanting to act too quickly or aggressively as he deepened the kiss. She immediately responded, matching his passion and pressing herself even closer to his body. She responded instantly, intensifying her passion and moving her whole body towards him. He felt her inhibitions disappear and her desire increase. He wanted to rip her clothes off and be inside, but he held back, letting her set the pace so she could feel safe with him. When he felt her gentle fingers hesitantly tugging at the hem of his shirt, he let go of her face and broke the kiss. He met her gaze, saw vulnerability in her eyes, those emerald circles full of expectation. He raised his hands to indicate that she could take off his shirt, and then he helped her take it off over her head. Taking off his shirt, he stood up from the couch, allowing her to look at his body. She stood next to him and then hesitantly reached out her hands, her fingers finding his chest. Her eyes followed her hands, slowly stroking his chest, stomach, and arms, feeling the contours of each muscle, tracing the outline of the tattoos. He watched her patiently, enjoying the gentle touch of her small hands and slender fingers. She stepped back and met his gaze, her face full of nervousness. It was obvious. She then grabbed the hem of her shirt and lifted it above her head. As her hair fell apart and she dropped her shirt, it was his turn to admire her standing in front of him in jeans and a simple white bra. He looked at her fair skin, narrow waist, toned stomach, and surprisingly full breasts for her figure. She was truly the epitome of beauty. When their eyes met again, she bit her lip and reached behind her to unclasp her bra. He liked the simplicity of her underwear. There was nothing sexy or provocative about him. It was an ordinary piece of clothing that she put on, not expecting to bring anyone to her place tonight. Loosening her bra, she removed the straps, revealing her perfect breasts. "You are beautiful, Allison," he said quietly, his voice sounding muffled and low. She smiled nervously at his compliment, then took a step towards him. He let her lead again, standing still as she ran her hands up his chest to his neck, pulling him closer to her. He leaned down, their lips meeting again, and he grabbed her waist, pulling her body towards his. Her soft breasts pressed against his torso, and his skin tingles from the sensation. Her soft breasts pressed against his torso, and it gave him a pleasant thrill. He hugged her tighter, lifting her off the floor with his strong, tattooed arms, pulling her even closer to him. Allison's tongue felt delicious, swirling gently against his own, and she wrapped her arms around his neck even tighter. The kiss became deeper, her passion grew, and he felt the last remnants of her doubts disappear, giving way to desire. He gently lowered her legs back to the floor. Then his hands moved to her jeans while their lips were still locked in a passionate kiss. Allison, sensing his intent, began to unbutton his pants as he continued to enjoy her hot, wet tongue. "Should we move this to the bedroom?" he asked, breaking their kiss. "Yes," she answered, breathing heavily, slowly pulling his zipper down. Justin picked her up in his arms, holding her tightly to him, and carried her into the bedroom. Along the way, she attacked his mouth again, kissing him hungrily as he confidently led them back. He couldn't wait to remove the rest of her clothes and tried to pull off her socks while he carried her, but it wasn't easy. When they entered the bedroom, he gently lowered her onto the edge of the bed, then stood up to admire her figure once more. He saw the fire in her green eyes. It was restrained passion, ready to burst out. Her chest heaved with rapid breathing. "The leg," he said quietly with a low growl in his tone. She smiled and lifted her foot, which he gently took in his hands and slowly pulled off the sock. He admired her graceful foot, small and feminine. He kissed her gently, then gently placed her on the floor, lifting her other leg. He repeated the same process, slowly removing the sock and enjoying every second. "I'd like to taste you," he said, kicking off his shoes and standing in front of her. "Would you like that?" "Yes," she whispered quietly, reaching for her pants to take them off. "Wait," he said. "Let me do this." Her smile widened and she lowered her hands, waiting for him to act. Her smile grew even wider and she lowered her hands, allowing him to take the lead. Justin slowly took off his socks, after which his hands went to the waistband of her jeans. He carefully unfastened them and began to pull them off, watching her eyes, which incessantly followed his every movement. He slowly removed her jeans, running his fingers down her legs and tossing them aside, then ran his palms up her smooth, toned legs, enjoying the touch of her soft skin. He touched the elastic band of her plain white cotton panties, looking into her eyes again. She lifted her hips slightly to help him, and he began to pull them off with ease. When he had completely stripped her of the last article of clothing, they were both left naked, stripped not only of clothing, but of all insincerity. Justin felt something deep and meaningful passing between them, something that words couldn't explain. He decided to enjoy every moment of this intimacy. Justin felt Allison tremble under his touch, as if her body was responding to his every movement, and quietly inhaled her scent, which seemed to fill the entire space around him. This moment was incredibly important for him. It seemed that all his feelings, every emotion became sharper, as if strengthened by her proximity. He gently ran his hand along her back, feeling the warmth of her skin, and heard her quietly gasp in response to his touch. In response to this, he touched her lips with a light, barely perceptible kiss, as if he was afraid to destroy this fragile silence between them. "You're driving me crazy," she whispered, and in her voice there was not only tension, but also something deeper sincerity and tenderness that he had rarely heard. Justin looked at her with a small smile, knowing that her words were sincere, that they shared more than just physical intimacy. He continued to tease her gently, lightly touching her hand, as if playing this silent but so important game of theirs. "Do you want me to stop?" he asked, adding a hint of humor to his voice to ease the tension in the air. But even in the joking tone, there was a hidden seriousness. He understood how important all this was for both of them. "No," she whispered with a soft smile that he could feel even in the dimness of the room. Her eyes shone with trust and warmth, and from this Justin felt something inside him respond to her answer. He slowly hugged her, his hands slid along her back, feeling every curve of her body, every detail. Their bodies seemed to synchronize in the same rhythm. Their breathing, their hearts, their movements were as one. It was more than just physical contact. It was a connection that went deeper. They looked into each other's eyes for a long time, silently conveying to each other everything that did not need to be said out loud. At that moment, everything seemed incredibly important, as if time had stopped to give them the opportunity to enjoy this moment. Justin gently ran his hand over her face, his fingers gently touching her cheek, studying every contour. He knew that at this moment every movement mattered. Leaning towards her ear, he said her name quietly, almost in a whisper, as if it were something sacred, as if it were the most important word he could say. Her eyes slowly closed, and he felt her relax in his arms, trusting him completely. "I don't want to tease you anymore," he whispered, tenderly squeezing her hand, in which he felt the warmth of her pulse, as a continuation of their single rhythm. The words were simple, but they carried so much meaning. They both knew that everything that happened between them was special, that this was a moment when everything was just here and now. Allison just nodded in response, and her hug became tighter, as if she wanted to feel him even closer, to feel his every breath, every beat of his heart. There was no doubt about her silent consent. She shared this moment with him completely, without reservations and without fear. And when their lips touched again, It was not just a kiss, it was an opportunity to convey to each other those feelings that cannot be expressed in words. They sat next to each other, feeling each other's warmth, and every moment spent in silence seemed incredibly valuable. In this silence, there was no need to talk about their feelings. They already said everything with their looks and touches. Their hearts spoke for each other. As the waves of pleasure began to subside and his body began to relax, he felt a sweet fatigue wash over him. Justin pulled away from her lips, resting his chin on her shoulder and pressing his cheek to her neck as his breathing gradually returned to normal. He could hear her breathing becoming more regular as well. Lying next to Allison, feeling her tender kisses touch his neck, he realized that he had never felt such pleasure before. But it wasn't just about sex. It was all about her, the woman who was now hugging him and touching him tenderly. Justin held Allison close to him, carefully placing her head on the pillow. Then he lay down next to her, his body still covered in the warm aftertaste. Allison rolled onto her side, placing her hand on his chest and her leg resting on top of his thigh. She settled comfortably, pressing her whole body against him, her head resting on his chest. He put his arm around her shoulders, gently holding her close to him. At that moment, it seemed to him that he could stay in this position with her forever. They lay in silence, catching their breath and enjoying each other's warmth and touch. The silence wasn't awkward, but comfortable just the way it should be between two people who are truly close. "Allison," he said quietly after a long silence. "Yes," she responded, her voice relaxed. "I'd like to see you again." "I'd like to see you too," she replied without hesitation. But then there was a pause. "But I need to tell you something." Justin felt her body tense a little. Something changed in her tone, and he realized that she was about to share something important, something that she had been hiding for a long time. "I'm being blackmailed," she whispered. The words reached him, but did not register in his mind at first. They were so unexpected that it took him several seconds to realize them. When the meaning of her words finally dawned on him, his heart began to beat faster. "What do you mean?" he asked nervously. "I made a mistake, and someone knows about it." Her voice became quieter, her eyes lowered. "And there's a video." "Are you serious?" he asked, finally realizing that she was telling the truth. "Yes," she replied, her voice filled with shame. "What does he want?" he asked, feeling his throat tighten with tension. She was silent, her hand lying on his chest froze. He clenched his teeth, already guessing that he would not like the answer. His heart sank in pain for her. "Who is he?" he croaked, his inner anger flaring with a bright flame. "I can't tell," she whispered. "You don't have to know. Nobody should. If he finds out that I told him, he will publish the video, and it will destroy me, ruin my career, my reputation, everything. And I'm afraid what you'll do if you find out who it is." "I will kill him," he hissed, unable to contain his rage. "I'll kill him, Allison." "That's why I can't tell you who it is," she answered quickly. "If I have to pay for my mistakes, I will accept it. But I can't let you ruin your life because of my wrongdoing. He hasn't bothered me for 3 months. It seems he's tired of me. He has others. Victims. I don't give him anything, so he's more interested in others. But if he finds out about you and me, he might use it against me. I won't be able to stand it if he starts putting pressure on me with renewed vigor. I want to help you. And I believe you," she interrupted. "But I can't be the reason your life goes wrong, Justin. You've already been through a lot, judging by what you told me today." Justin clenched his jaw and clenched his fists, feeling the helplessness wash over him. He hated this feeling, hated that he couldn't do something right away to protect her. "I don't want to lose you, Allison," he said seriously. "Today I felt something special with you, something I haven't experienced before, and I want to see where it leads." Allison was silent, her hand still on his chest. Finally, she spoke. "I felt it too, and I don't want to lose you. I think I just found you." "Then don't lose it," he said firmly, covering her hand with his. "Let's try to be together, and we'll find a way to free you from this bastard who's blackmailing you." "I don't know if there is such a way," she answered quietly. If word gets out about you and me, he might turn his attention to me again. Then we will meet secretly, he suggested. No one will know about this, only us. It's not fair to you, she said softly, finally raising her head to meet his gaze. In her beautiful green eyes, Justin saw both compassion and deep sadness. You deserve to be with someone who can be with you completely. I can't give that to you. Maybe not right now, but I have a feeling you're worth the wait, he said firmly. We will find a way to free you, and then we will no longer have to hide anything. I can't give up on you after I just found you. I will not give up. But, no, he interrupted her loudly. He took her face in his hands and gently lifted her so that she looked into his eyes. We will meet in secret until we deal with your blackmailer, and let's do it together. I can't ask you to do this, she whispered. You don't need to, he replied. I suggest it myself. Do you really want this? Absolutely. Why? Because we're both broken, and broken things can be fixed and become even more beautiful than they were, with the help of work and love, remember? I see something incredible between us, and I'm willing to work for it, Allison. And you? Yes, she breathed, her hand sliding from his chest to his thigh, and she pressed herself even closer to him. I want to try. Give us a chance. But, she added, if one day you meet someone who can give you everything you deserve, and I can't, you'll have to accept that and move on. Allison. No, she continued insistently. Now it's my turn to set the terms, and my condition is simple. If you find someone who can be with you completely, I expect you to choose her and leave me behind. Fine? Okay, he agreed reluctantly. But until then, you're mine, he said with a growing smile. Seeing the joy in her eyes in response to his words, Justin kissed her tenderly again. It was a kiss of tenderness and affection, a kiss that he had been waiting for so long. Allison, he realized, was special. He knew that many people would never see her like this. They will only remember her mistakes and judge her for being unfaithful to her ex-husband. These people will always consider her spoiled. But Justin remembered the old saying, someone else's junk is someone else's treasure. What others could easily throw away, he was not going to lose. He saw her broken parts, saw their beauty, and wanted to fix them with gold, creating something even more beautiful than before. He held her close to him like a real treasure until she fell asleep, her head still resting on his chest. And while she slept, his thoughts turned again inward to his heart, where the fire of rage still burned. This fire burned deep within his soul, ready to destroy the one who hurt Allison. And when Justin finds this man, and he definitely will, he will burn him to the ground. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.